This is the Widow Podcast, and I am Karen Sutton, the Widow Coach. I'll be supporting you through the loss of your life partner so you can find a more positive way through your grief. I want to give you hope after loss and to know that when you are ready, you can create a meaningful life for yourself with the help of me, Karen Sutton, and the Widow Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Widow Podcast. In this episode, I want to give you a little widow pep talk. What's a pep talk? Something that helps you see how courageous, inspiring, brave, incredible you are being. This is one of my main focuses in my work with my clients, in my groups, is getting widows to acknowledge how well they are doing. It's not something that comes naturally to us, is it? It's something that we find very, very difficult to do. At the weekend, we all gathered together. There was about 45 of us here in Cheltenham for a Christmas gathering. It was the 3rd of December. I do it every year. And in one of the sessions, we were asked to fill in a proud cloud. So acknowledging the things that we've done in our journeys since our person has died that we are proud of. Now, some people found this a little easier than others, but there were a few of us that found this really difficult because it's really hard to acknowledge actually the things that we're doing and giving ourselves credit for that. And sometimes proud can feel like too big a word. Because are we proud? Because there's so much attached to our grief, isn't there? There's so much for us to consider. And sometimes for us to think, I feel proud of myself, can feel like a step too far, depending on where we are in our journey. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. Because sometimes to feel like you're proud of something when your person has died can feel a little bit maybe disloyal, like you are doing things when they're not here. And what does that mean? What does that mean? Does that mean that actually you're okay without them and you shouldn't be? Because does that mean you didn't love them anymore? Does that mean that you're not grieving them anymore? You know, as you've heard me say before in previous episodes, that we make things mean something they don't mean, and we attach this story to a behavior, to an action, to a thought. And that becomes our truth. And we layer our suffering with these stories because it's rare that we make things mean something good. We tend to go to the negative side of things, the side that makes us feel heavier, more burdened with our grief in some way or another. So it's good to remind ourselves that actually giving ourselves permission to recognize our achievements and to feel proud of ourselves doesn't take anything away from you. It doesn't mean that you don't love your person anymore. It doesn't mean that you're no longer grieving. It doesn't mean that actually you can do things without them and you didn't need them as much as you thought you did. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that you are doing things that you never thought you'd be able to do. Because grief is hard. Losing your life partner is hard. Hard doesn't even really do it justice, does it? It's the most devastating, painful experience. It takes you to a place full of fear, despair, and anxiety. You know, like we could go on, couldn't we, about everything that brings in for us. There's also room in our grief for growth, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking to grow around our grief. We're not moving away from it. We're taking it forward with us. But in order to be able to carry it more lightly, we have to grow as a person. We have to learn new ways, new thoughts, new habits, new behaviors. We have to create a life. It's almost like reinventing ourselves, reinventing our lives and rebuilding from scratch again sometimes. And that takes so much courage. That takes so much strength and bravery. All those words that trigger us, actually, that when people say them to us, there's often that response of, well, what choice do I have? I will send you to episode 10, where I talk to you there about the choices, because you always have a choice. It's recognizing the choices that you're making and being proud of them and saying, do you know what? I do have choices. You always have choices. There is always another option. But you have chosen the option you've taken, and you did have a choice in that. And there was a reason why you made that choice. And it's recognizing those things. So if that's coming up for you whilst you're listening to me talking, I urge you to go and listen to episode 10. I don't have a choice. Go take a listen, because hopefully that will help you understand where you do have choices and where you are making choices that are brave, that are courageous, that are strong. So when we're talking about maybe being proud of ourselves, and if that feels like a step too far, find a way that feels comfortable to you that you can talk about. And that might just be acknowledging things that you think you've done well. Maybe you have some achievements of something that you didn't thought you could do, or you didn't think you could do, sorry. Giving yourself time to give yourself a pat on the back. Acknowledge these things. Because it's very easy in grief for us to look at what we haven't done, what we're not doing well. We judge ourselves, we criticize ourselves. We are constantly comparing ourselves to others, whether they are a widow or not. And this is something that I talk to people a lot in my groups, because it's natural. It is something that we all do all the time. It's natural to fall into that space. There's nothing wrong with it. And it's not, I don't think, possible to stop it in its entirety, because that's how the world is. It just is these days, because of social media, because of the lives we lead. It's very easy to look at other people's lives and to make those comparisons and make those judgments, and to look around at everyone else and find those inadequacies within ourselves. And we will always look at what we think we haven't done, what we didn't do well enough, what we should be doing, what everyone else is doing and you're not. And there's this constant internal dialogue, criticizing, judging, putting ourselves down. And what I want you to understand is that we can't compare. We can't compare anything in life, because we are all unique. Our relationships are unique. We are unique. Our grief is unique. So we can't compare. There is no comparison. And to judge ourselves harshly, to criticize ourselves, to think that we're not doing things well enough, again, that's layering more suffering onto our grief. I want you to look at all the things that you have done. For starters, you are here listening to this episode. This episode is being released after Christmas, on Boxing Day. So you have got through Christmas Day. I know there's still a way to go. But even if you're listening to this a few months down the line, wherever you are in your grief, wherever you are in your journey, whatever is showing up for you right now, look at everything that you have done up to this point. Because I'm telling you now, if you were to write a list of everything that you have done, and then a list of everything that you think you haven't done, or you haven't done well enough, or you should be doing, the list of everything you have done will be so much bigger. Because for starters, when you are having a really heavy, griefy day, getting out of bed is a win. Because it takes so much when we just want to hide under the covers every day. Making yourself a cup of tea, eating a meal, answering a message from a friend, actually going to do the thing that you arranged to do when you didn't want to do it. The widow admin, the funeral, going to see your person, saying goodbye. There's so much around this that we cannot understand the enormity of it sometimes. And we just do it. We just get on with it because we very much will say, well, what choice have I got? I've got to do it. And, you know, you have got a choice and you are choosing to do it and you are doing these things. You are facing your fears every single day. You are pushing yourself. You're achieving things that you never thought possible. You are brave. You are amazing. You are courageous. You are inspiring. And yes, I know it's triggering when other people say this to you. And I know it can feel frustrating because you feel that in those messages to you, they're saying you are living out something that I can't imagine living through. And of course they can't. Of course they can't imagine it. Because if somebody had said to you before your partner had become ill or your partner had died, that that was what was going to happen, you wouldn't be able to imagine yourself dealing with that. And you especially wouldn't be able to imagine yourself dealing with that in the way that you have dealt with it. And I really want you to see this, because us as widows are living through a nightmare that others can't imagine having to live through. And it is so hard. It takes every ounce of everything you've got to get through the days, especially in the early days. You are brilliant. You are amazing. You have so much in you that you haven't even discovered yet. And you also have so much in you that you are starting to discover, that you are starting to see in yourself, because grief brings these things out in us. There's so much about me that I've learned through my journey that I never knew before, because I've never had to dig that deep. I've never had to reach that far inside of me to get through something so difficult. And I just want you to take a moment to acknowledge what you're doing, to really sit in that space, to give yourself that pat on the back, to congratulate you, to validate yourself, to be your own cheerleader, your own best friend, your support. Because who used to do that for you is no longer here. And that is really rubbish. Because ordinarily when we did something, we would come home and they would give us that pat on the back, that high five, that go you. They'd be our supporter. They would encourage us. And they are no longer here. And that feels awful. However, we are able to learn to do that for ourselves. So please understand how incredible you are, how unique you are, how every day you are doing something that you probably never ever imagined that you could do. Because you're getting up, you're facing the world, you're reaching out for support, you are seeking information, you are here listening to this. You might be in one of my groups. You might be bringing up young children. You might be supporting your own grown-up children. You might be looking after grandchildren. You might not have children, and you are doing this at home by yourself. Whatever your situation, whatever is going on for you, you're doing brilliantly. Absolutely, amazingly, wonderfully, beautifully well. Notice this, recognize it, Make notes of it, journal about it, take time every Sunday to reflect on your week and write down what you've achieved in that week, what you've done. And get used to giving yourself that pep talk. Get used to giving yourself that little bit of encouragement, that acknowledgement that you are doing this and you are doing this to the best of your ability. And that deserves some recognition. You are amazing. Honestly, whether I've met you or I haven't, I know you are doing amazing. Because facing the loss of a life partner every single day is one of the hardest things that we can go through in life. And you are. And you should be proud of yourself. I am sending you so much love. Be gentle. Recognize what you are doing. And be your own best friend. Take care. Lots of love. Thank you so much for listening to the Widow podcast with me, Karen Sutton. If you would like to be part of a supportive community of people who understand your grief, come and join my free Facebook group, Widowed and Rising. And make sure you tune in to the next episode of the Widow podcast.